What is up, everybody? We're back again for another incredible episode. We've got a fantastic guest over here. We've got Patrick from Uptics, a leading outbound management software. They've got over 3,000 people using that platform. He's absolutely crushing it. He knows more about data and outbound than most people do. Patrick, thank you for joining on board.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. So yes, it is an interesting combination. Patrick does run a competitive software, but guess what? He's got a quality product. He's got something that is very respected in the market. I respect it a lot as well. And Patrick has a lot of interesting insights as a founder that I learn from too. So Patrick, I'll jump in. First question I always ask all our guests: why do people pay you?
Yeah, great question. We do a lot in one platform. Is probably to sum it up in one sentence. Where our goal is to build more of an all-in-one software. So aside from that, obviously email deliverability is a big thing, as you know, which I know you guys are super focused on as well. Not getting any easier. So I'd say, doing a lot in one platform and then deliverability.
Nice. Okay, let's jump straight into it then, because I think one thing that I really find interesting, you post a lot on LinkedIn for people who want to check out. Really cool backdrop tips about cold emailing. You mentioned that if you're sending low volume, you can keep your open rates going, like your open rate tracking going. It really doesn't make that much of a difference per se. Can you share your sentiment here? Where do you see this going in general? What are your thoughts on open rates as a metric for businesses to measure?
Yeah, I think it, like if you're not doing a crazy amount of volume, to me, and based on the data that I see, it's fine. If you're doing an insane amount of volume, we probably want to test doing open tracking or not. As you know, like with the Apple iOS updates and all that, like open tracking isn't as accurate as it used to be because they're sending false signals, and products like ours are trying to build little algorithms to make it more accurate. But at a minimum, in my eyes, especially if you're doing lower volume, it's giving you some insight to, like, if you're at least landing in the inbox, like if you're hitting a 10% open rate, like you're totally, like, you're in spam. To me, like, I'd rather have that visibility if you're doing a low volume game than to just totally fly blind and wonder what the heck's going
Agreed.
on.
Okay.
So that's kind of my sentiment there. And then, as you get more advanced, I think that's where you play around with, turning open tracking off, start getting up, doing more than, 50 emails,
Fair enough.
A day.
Fair enough.
Stuff like that. So that's kind of my philosophy.
Makes sense. And on that note, I know there's no full-time recipe on this, and each niche has its own approach, etc. But do you see a configuration? At least you can restrict this to Uptics itself. Do you see a configuration that works really well for your customers, the really successful ones that are using Uptics? What's the strategy that they use to get the best out of the platform?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, of course, is like multi-domain, multi-inbox, and sending distribution. So I guess the modern day game that I know you guys are doing, we're doing. I don't necessarily know who pioneered it or whatever, but multi-inbox, multi-domain distribution, which of course requires a little bit more setup, but you get better deliverability, can send more volume more consistently, and adds a few layers of complexity like email warming and all that. But at the end of the day, I'd rather go through a little bit extra legwork, land in the inbox, primary, get replies, get meetings, get customers.
That's all we care about, right? So makes perfect sense.
Yep.
What are your suggestions for people to handle out of office replies? Should they continue messaging them? We completely ignore it? Is it a reminder process to go ahead and message them again? Where do you stand on this? Because sometimes you just get bombarded with out of offices.
Yeah, especially at the end of the year when everyone's taking vacations. Yep. Yeah, like in terms of tech, like our system just ignores it. It ignores the out office, so it'll keep following the same sequence. So what I usually advise people around like holidays, the only time it's a real big issue is Christmas, New Year. So some people will either pause their sequence or they'll change it, like the last delay or something in a sequence to spread it out a little bit longer to avoid it. I'm sure we'll probably have some other automation at some point, but
Makes
yeah,
sense.
keep it rolling.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And
The reply, I think, is actually a good thing
yeah, I was gonna say
for
it's actually like
deliverability.
a nice little seed, right? Like you get a positive response, so it's a good seed almost.
Yeah,
That's a nice one there. I want to sort of run onto that premise of how you said your system sort of ignores it, because I'm assuming there's some sort of AI piece, which then trails me to my next question. Two things. How are you using ChatGPT or OpenAI or any sort of AI right now for your own outbound? And how do you suggest people use it for their own, like they can be using a competitor software, they can use their own software. How can they incorporate AI into their outbound?
for sure. Yeah, so we do have an AI for the whole
Yeah.
out of office and bounce protection, of course. It's no perfect
Yep.
science or whatever, but it's pretty darn accurate. I'm sure you guys did something
Yep.
similar to that. In terms of you know, on the outbound side, we just released a bunch of email writing tools,
Yep.
of course, like an analysis tool
Yep.
to gauge positivity, actionability, like a whole bunch of stuff. So that's on kind of the email analysis side, of course. And then you get the writers. So like we've incorporated GPT, I think 3 or 3.5 right now. And we're building UpChat. So it'll be native chat, team group chat inside the platform with GPT-3 to collaborate on sequences. Yeah, and then the whole we'll have a whole persona thing. So, but in terms of on the outbound side with AI, there's email writing, of course. There's reply sentiment. There's automatic replies. So we're in the process right now of building reply sentiment and automatic replies. But mostly on the email writing side is where we kind of see it at this point. Obviously, there's a million different things you can do
Yeah.
with it. I don't know what you guys are doing so far, but there's so many use cases. We've just built like cold emails, follow ups, Spintax AI, a whole bunch of stuff. Fix you me ratios, confidence booster, power words, whole bunch of things. There's just so much you can do. I think people aren't copywriters, and like I see so much bad email copy.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And I want to jump into that. Right. It's a great segue. You helped me for the next question. What are 5 mistakes people should absolutely avoid with their copy? I think you wrote about this recently on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. So subject lines, of course, just kind of starting from the beginning, outside of just like being able to land in the inbox with email deliverability, subject lines, the biggest thing, like, don't use emojis, don't use exclamation points, don't use capital words. There's, a whole bunch of things that kind of starts there. And then getting into the email, avoiding I like to avoid the use of the word I. I like to make it all about the prospect. I try to avoid the words I, me, we, our, everything at all costs.
Yeah.
And I'm big into copywriting, so over the last 10 years, I've kind of been a copywriter, become a copywriter, and I've got a really good copywriter on our team. And so like getting into the mind of your prospects and understand like what motivates people it's usually pains and desires.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
Like what can I fix and what can I get?
Yeah.
And so from a copywriting perspective, just always think about what can they get?
Yep.
And, or what can they fix is ultimately the biggest thing.
Makes sense.
And then length is a crusher. So, I get cold emails that are 200 words, and like I run it through like the little shortener. It's like, right now it's 60 words.
Yes.
So say the same thing using way less words.
Yes.
Ultimately.
I don't know who said it, right? It's like, I'm sorry it's so long. If I had some time, it would have been shorter. Like, I think one of the authors or those poets said that. I'm like, wow, that's so true. It takes effort to write a short email. But yeah, sorry, carry on.
For sure. Yeah. Obviously then there's personalization, there's relevance, there's intent, kind of the 3-headed monster to that whole game. So if you can personalize and you're not doing automated, then, that's of course going to help. If you are doing automated, find some sort of like either intent or relevance to them, some sort of, thing that would stand out and make it unique to them. And if you can't achieve all those, I would advocate using Spintax anyway for any any type of volume. You got to rotate content in your email somehow.
And do you want to jump into that very quickly while we're at that topic? Why do you think a rotation is important nowadays, at least?
Yeah, I mean, through the grapevine, I guess I see stats and analytics and stuff on mixing up email templates and content, but of course, the conventional wisdom is Gmail, Microsoft, and the big email client providers who are trying to filter as many emails out of their customers' inbox as possible. It doesn't help you land in their inbox. So, in the conventional wisdom, of course, is that they're looking at the same email getting sent over and over and over again. And with some of the games that they've been playing in terms of pushing people to promo and spam folder, and with the rise of warm-up products, through the grapevine, I guess I've heard, and I can't verify this exactly, but it's going to more than just domain or inbox reputation. For if you're going to land in the inbox, it's also email reputation. So like the actual email that you're sending. And ultimately that comes down to like what you're saying in the words. So like the more unique the email, the better. So yeah.
Makes perfect sense. And I completely agree with you. So anyone listening, if you start to see like a really great open rate, again, I tend to not look at it, but or reply rate, whatever. You see positive sentiment and then that's suddenly dropping with you doing no updates. That's a clear indicator that you've got email fatigue or copy fatigue. And you might say, oh, I've only sent 1,000, 2,000 emails. It's 2023, things have changed. And with the advent of ChatGPT, all these email providers are even smarter now to realize that what's AI copy, what's not AI copy. So if you're just sending the same message to thousands of people, you are going to get hit. So Spintax, like Patrick said, focus on that. Variability, all these things make a massive difference. Patrick, you spoke about personalization. Do you mind giving me some tips on how you personalize your own emails? Like, do you use certain softwares? Do you use what data points work really well? LinkedIn, news articles, and how you do that at scale?
Yeah, we have an interline writer we integrated with another product for that. So it's Line.ai who we integrated with. We have our own model. We just haven't implemented it at this point. But, with, as full well with SmartWriter that, AI interlines sometimes like they still need some love.
70% and they work. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So, I'm kind of a fan of doing like PS lines versus like leading with it, because if the AI, screws up and whoever's reviewing the intro lines, like didn't catch it, or they just got click happy and just wanted to like approve it and move on and didn't catch something. I'd rather have it at like, hey, by the way, and then add a little, flair at the end. So, and also like, I'm a fan of dialing in your copy through an automated method first, actually, versus personalizing, because personalization can overrun bad copy. And so I could get better reply rates with a heavily personalized email and get a lot of, hey, I appreciate this email, but I'm not interested. So I'd rather get the email dialed in and maximize my conversions with automated email first, no personalization, and then add personalization in.
Makes sense.
Through using an AI
whatever
tool. So that's kind of my methodology. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. I want to run into like a bit more on the analytical side of things with the information that you have that a lot of people don't have easy access to, right? On that side of things, what are your most successful customers, right? We all have the ones that absolutely crush and the ones that don't, right? The ones that are crushing it, what do you see that they're doing that the ones that are not crushing it are doing?
Probably going to come back to multi-inbox, just like sending distribution.
So it's the patterns.
Multi-domain.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you see anything in particular with respect to like how they set up their copy and stuff, or do you sort of want to go in the premise where like the copy is important, but if your baseline infrastructure is wrong, it doesn't matter. You're not going to land in the inbox.
Yeah. It all starts with deliverability.
Fair enough.
In my mind, copywriting's second. So if I were to, it all kind of runs together, but data matters, like where you're getting your leads matter, deliverability matters, copy matters, it all matters. And the last level is like anybody who's, using email as like step one of an outreach strategy, then multi-channel to maximize results. So like the people willing to pick up the phone, if they're seeing positive signals from email or from social or whatever, and they'll pick up the phone or they'll hit somebody up on, LinkedIn or whatever, like the more channels, and just like the persistence, not like annoying, but like persistence is the big key. And that's on the multi-channel. On the email side, I think it really comes down to nailing deliverability, and then at least having reasonable copy. So
buy my shit. No, I fully feel you. I have to completely agree on the persistent piece. It's such a common trait that people tend to miss, but it's one of the most fundamental traits to have if you want to be successful in anything. But no more life preachy stuff. Cool. I've got two more questions for you that I want to sort of run with. Is with the access of information that you have, what are some tips that you can give us? What are 3 hot niches that people can start focusing on, or are you seeing that scene has picked up heat recently? Let's ignore e-commerce businesses. Let's take that, burn it inside. But other than e-commerce, what are some 3 niches people are focusing on nowadays for lead gen that seems to be doing okay?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question. So, I mean, you've always got the the ERC tax credit, is of course like one of these ones that people are kind of focusing on and stuff like that. I would say there's anything like from a trend, like right now it's kind of tough sledding out there. I would say in a number of industries, like we have a lot of recruiters as customers, and like recruiting has really taken a big hit. So it's almost more about like, which industries are being impacted and how can we help them versus like, I don't, maybe you have some ideas on
hot niches.
And I don't know that I have like great like intel into that. I know which ones are struggling because they're like
maybe let's go with that. What are the ones that you think people should avoid?
I mean the staffing recruiting is like super tough right now. I mean, that's a loaded question too, but just like hiring and bringing on staff is like,
obviously the market's getting hit right now, so makes sense.
Market's just getting destroyed. So it's super tough. Yeah, that's probably the biggest one I see. Anyone, I think the COVID stuff is kind of, obviously we're seeing ripple effects of it, but like hospitality businesses and like my former company that I exited recently was like hit pretty bad from COVID because we service bar and restaurant owners. So, that kind of stuff is starting to come back, but now with the economy, it's people are kind of climbing up again.
So macroeconomical terms are an easy way to sort of leverage your information to see where do I focus and where I don't. So to sort of add to your question, I think e-commerce is not going to die, but it's just so aggressively competitive. You need to, if you want to target them, you just need to make sure you lower your expectations by 10x. So let's say your average reply rate you expect to be 5%. With e-commerce, 0.5% is a good number, right? Like that's how bad it is there. So that's one thing I've seen. Staffing recruiting was something I was going to bring up as well. It really depends on which part of the world you're in. So if you're in the Eastern hemisphere of the world, it's actually pretty decent, but Western is completely getting clobbered right now with SVB and all the thousands of things that are happening there. So fully agree with you on that piece. Sort of run into the last question, which I think is one that will be a nice tip for everyone listening. What are 3 things every email copy should absolutely have? We spoke about what they shouldn't include. We spoke about personalization. Maybe this is like a sum up. So what are 3 things that you think every copy that you're like, bang, I'm getting meetings over meetings. What do you think that should have?
A desire.
Okay.
A desire. Like I always lead with the desire first.
So like,
are you like a doomsday?
Do you mind giving me an example? Because I'm interested as well.
So like if I'm going to prospect somebody, we're doing outbound. I'd open up with like, hey, curious if your sales campaigns are getting 11% reply rates.
Makes sense.
So it's not like, hey, are you struggling to get.
Uh,
It's more like what can I get?
get?
And so yeah, so or strive for, or like in their brain, get them to think about like what's possible
Okay.
without me like shoving it down their throat. Because when we use problem based, like problem, agitate, solution type frameworks as well, but typically like with those, it's easy for a prospect to shut down because they know they're going to get sold to. So we do a short. Usually, it's a problem-based subject line, like 2 to 3 words max, and then it's a desire-based opening because obviously you can see that in the preview, make them feel good, and then usually we'll have like some sort of like problem-based, of course, line in there, and of course a call to action, but. This is going to sound crazy to a lot of people. Like, we don't talk about the company. We don't usually put like even social proof, like nothing. Like I don't say like I used to do this years back with the agency that I had. I used to say, something like, oh, XYZ company added, 40 appointments, in 30 days or something like that. I don't brag about ourselves. I don't even mention our company name. I don't do any of that. It's all about the desire and a potential problem. And then the call to action is actually built on the way we do it, built on the opening line.
Interesting.
So we call it a domino. So let's just say we say, curious if you're getting 11% reply rates, with cold emails or something. We would then transition to saying something like asking because getting this kind of result comes down to one critical factor: email deliverability.
I see.
So that's the domino.
I see.
And then we usually educate. So then email deliverability is comprised of spin tags,
I understand.
custom tracking domains, warming, all this kind of stuff. So we're kind of educating, but also we want to have some head scratchers in the list where they're like, wait, what is that? Makes sense. We want to pique curiosity. Makes sense. And then the call to action is built on like that reply rate or the domino. Yeah. So, hey, if you could improve your email deliverability by 137%, would that help company? I
understand. Okay.
So we don't say anything. I don't bring up upticks. The word is
it's just desire focused.
Like, all desire focused. Okay. Get a reply.
Nice. Okay, that's pretty cool. And like you said, you raise a very good point. Like the goal of the email is not to like hard sell them like a post purchase. I think this weird notion that's on Twitter at least, where people think that, oh, I don't need to message this person. It's just send an email and someone subscribes, or like someone goes to my ClickFunnels page. No, the email's job is to just get an interest and a response. Then it's your job to go and get that booking, that meeting, jump on a call, and close the deal. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, and when you're talking about yourself, bragging about your accomplishments, even like, hey, if we have some big customers, it's nice to brag about that. But if they're interested at all, they're going to go to your website and they'll see the logos on the website. And so like, I don't need to say it in the, like, it's just a selfish thing, and people are selfish. It like unless you're Mother Teresa, like,
they are
selfish. So like, what's in it for 100%. Me? And that's 100%. It. 100%. You don't need to brag about, the NFL being, your customer or anything like that. Like, I actually got I got an email like that the other day. It's impressive. Don't get me wrong, but like that, they lost me way before that. And I'd rather get a lower reply rate and have the intent higher on an actual reply.
Yes.
I can trick anybody to get a reply.
I feel you over here, right? Where like, oh, you'll have someone in the team say, oh yeah, I've got a high reply rate, but then you realize when you jump on a call, this person has no clue what you're actually even doing, and you need to sit there and waste time educating them. It's like, I'd rather just get a lower response rate, but high intent. So when I jump on a call, I'm not sitting there trying to convince them, try cold email, but instead, you're doing cold email, I get your point, we're better. Like, that's so fully attest to.
Yeah, save some of that other stuff for like another day or another email, even like second email, like, hey, if you want to brag about some customers or something, whatever it is, like, save it for later. You don't have to get everything out.
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Cool, man. This
So I think
has been super
yeah.
insightful. Thank you. Like you said, you clearly can see that you know your copy well. I picked up a few things for sure. For people who want to get in touch with you or want to try out your business, what's the best way?
Uptics.io, no K in the Uptics, there's CPTICS.io. Or check out our YouTube channel. It might be actually, before you even go check out our product, probably like go check out some of the content we put out on YouTube.
Yeah.
So you probably just search
Yeah.
Uptics on YouTube. It's Cold to Gold Selling and Uptics. And then you can decide if
it makes sense.
If it makes sense from there. So that's probably the best way.
And your LinkedIn as well, Patrick Spielmann. I'll go ahead and put that up. I'll put all the links in the description below. So thank you so much, Patrick. It's been absolutely fantastic to have you. A lot of cool insights. I'm going to go try some of these myself. Thank you and have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, bye, bud. Appreciate it.